Morning everybody, welcome to another round of coffee and questions. What's today's topic? We're going to talk about MIG welding tips. The actual copper tips that go on the, the very tip of your MIG gun. And so the Chicago Electric out at Harbor Freight and Vulcan make these tips. We got them in the packages. I've got one that's 030, I got one that's 035. I rarely use the 035, I'll explain to you why downstream in the video, but I always have MIG tips on hand. And somebody asked the question, is there a big difference, in buying, these kinds of MIG tips? Because we heard the Tweco is the better brand, and you should get those, and Lincoln makes the best ones. No, Hobart does, no, so-and-so does, and all this stuff. I haven't noticed a huge difference. Now, I don't do structural welding. I do DIY stuff, handyman kind of stuff, and just a home hobbyist. So, for me, these tips work perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with them, and you're going to save money, by buying them. So, we'll get into the video here a little bit, and we'll have a discussion. So, sometimes when you're welding, and the problems that you're having is not even related to the tip, but people blame the tip for everything, and it's not necessarily true. So today I spend about every 3 weeks or a month, I spend a couple of hours every morning doing maintenance on different things. I just pick a piece of equipment, I check the belts, I go through it, I do all this stuff, and then this morning I did this on my welder because weather's changing. I have some projects that are pending for people that I need to do. No rush on them because I work a full-time job like everybody else. But back to the topic on the tips. I'm going to show you a picture right now of the Chicago Electric brand tips, and then I'll show you another picture of the Vulcan brand tips. Both available out at Harbor Freight. Give me just a sec. Okay, so those are the ones from out at Harbor Freight. Now I get a lot of questions, hey, will these Harbor Freight brand tips, will they fit my Hobart, will they fit my Lincoln, will they fit this, will they fit that? I read through reviews and stuff, and from what everybody says, these are kind of a universal threaded tip, and they'll fit almost on all these machines. The Lincoln, the Hobart, the Miller, the titanium especially, and the other Harbor Freight welders, of course. But they will fit on other welders, so that's my best advice. I don't own all the welders, I can't tell you, but from what I read in the comments, universal fit, they do fit on everything. So one of the first things that I check or I look at is somebody will text me and go, hey, can you take a look at my weld and tell me what's going on? Or they'll post it in the forum, not necessarily to me, but to a group, and I read through the comments. Let me show you a picture of some bad welds, or a bad weld. Okay, so you saw that picture. Now let's talk about dirty tips and dirty shields on your MIG gun. Let me show you a couple of pictures. Okay, so those things, you take a look at the weld and say, what went wrong? I got crummy tips. I need to buy more expensive tips. That's not necessarily the answer. These tips I find are perfectly fine for everything I do. It's a cost saving, so why not save the money, put it towards some other tool that I want. So I think in a nutshell, Harbor Freight's tips are totally fine. There's nothing wrong with them. What usually goes wrong is you're not stopping and thinking about everything that goes into making this weld, let's say. So let's start. I want to show you a picture of the roller mechanism inside of a welder, and it's similar to mine in back of me here. I'll move out of the way in a sec, and you'll see my Miller Matic. I start there first. I check the roller and I check the entry hole of the wire. After you run spools of wire through there, it is possible that you'll get crud built up. So I'll always take, like a little rag or something, and I wipe that clean. I start there. Okay, after that, not much else to do till you get up to the tip of it. Now, when I get to the tip of it, like here on this, and like you saw in the picture, I clean this out, this shield. Now you can do that with a pair of Harbor Freight's, Mig pliers. Take a look at my last video. I show you exactly how to clean this out. And then I always take off the shield and I take a good look at the tip of this. Now this one's starting to get kind of funky. I mean, if you take a look at all the little splattering up there. Tips are cheap. I mean, so don't, I had a friend of mine, he keeps trying to wire brush, file them, and play around, and I'm like, dude, I mean, these things are cheap. I mean, just throw the damn thing out and put a new tip on there. I mean, your welds will come out so much better without all this debris plugged up around here. I mean, so once I've checked those things, your next thing is to make sure your wire is sticking out the correct length. It's not like way out here, and it's not cut flush here. And I showed you with the Harbor Freight pliers how a lot of people don't know this, and I know it's going to sound simplistic, and I'm not trying to make anybody sound stupid, that if you take the part where the hole is, right here, and you press this up against your shield, and then you clip it, these wire cutters here are going to cut this off to the perfect length for you. So you need a clean tip, a clean shield, the wire the right length, your rollers are clean, and I mean, and you need to do just some basics before you go ahead and start. Okay, so like I said, let's get into some additional tips for you to become a better welder right off of the bat. I don't care if you're a beginner, novice, whatever. All of these things, I mean, even if you write them down or just go through a checklist, before you start welding, your welds are going to turn out a lot better than they would have if you didn't. So the next thing is, let me give you some tips. Tip 1, you want clean metal. You don't want metal that's got dirt, rust, and contamination all over it. So that's probably the most biggest reason, when I'm out in the little group of people that we have, that I see why their welds look horrible. They don't spend the time, cleaning up the metal and cleaning the crap off of it. So let's call it weld prep. So I want good, clean metal so that when this actually comes in contact, you have a really good welding bead, hopefully, or thereabouts. You'll get better penetration for sure, and your welds will look better. Step 2, you want a good ground. Now, the one even on my Miller Matic, I mean, that grounding clamp, I didn't like it that much. Harbor Freight sells these. They're not cheap, so use your coupon. This is an outstanding, strong welding clamp. Let me tell you. I mean, I love this. This is one of my favorite tools that I've gotten out there for the price. It's great, okay? And then you want to clean a spot on your welding bench. Don't just clamp at the dirty metal. That's not going to help you. You want this clean, get a clean spot here. And then you want the grounding wire part of this pointing from the top down, okay? You'll get a better ground all the way around. You will. Try it. Because when you run this MIG gun, the gun doesn't care about your clamping or anything else. It's just going to keep feeding wire as soon as you hit that trigger. It doesn't give a damn about anything. So you're going to get all this splattering and sputtering and all this, and that goddamn tip, and you're going to carry on and say bad words and all that. It's not the tip. Pay attention to the grounding clamp. That's a good tip. Seriously, I learned that the hard way myself long ago, and I learned it from a guy that was a really good welder. Step 3. Step 3 we already talked about. Use your MIG wire, your pliers, and cut it to the correct length. You don't want it sticking out too far, and you don't want it cut running flush. It'll damage either the shield, the tip faster, or you're going to have problems with the sputtering and all of that. So cut it correctly. Step 4, a little bit more difficult. Let's talk about correct settings. If you go to weld and you hear a hissing sound, it's like that, your voltage is probably set too high, and you got to turn it down a little bit. If you hear a loud, raspy, crackly, weird kind of a sound coming from it, it's probably, the voltage is set too low. Sorry about that phone call. Those are the things, they're very generalized. I mean, like I said, the hissing, high voltage, the crackling, raspy noise could be low voltage. You'd have to kind of tweak and tamper with it, but you'll get the hang of it. Those are just general rules, like I said. Now, the next thing is when you're welding, the question is, should I use a pushing technique or should I use the pulling technique? Okay, pushing works if you're using like thinner gauge material because you're not going to get that deep penetration burn. So you can practice doing that. I am not that good at it, to be honest with you. I've done it before when I did this restoration on this old Willys truck where I put in a new floor pan, and it worked okay, but there's a couple of times I burned through it and had to spot weld over it and play around. So, but that's what that pushing technique is mainly for, and it's a wide flat surface, I mean, that you're working on. I mean, so almost all of the time I'm using the pulling technique, and in the pulling technique you are going to get a deeper burn, like or a deeper penetration, and it's going to be a much stronger weld. So the pulling is actually better, you know, for a lot heavier material. It's also called dragging, but that's what it is, I suppose, in a lot of technical things when you read about it. Okay, and so the next tip, let's say, is the position. Now, you're going to read a lot of things where people will tell you, the handover technique, and they're going to, and that works. Don't get me wrong, that works. It works great. I do use it. The biggest thing for me is when I'm welding, and here I have this welding table, I have lots of clamps and things that I can use, or I have the magnets from out at Harbor Freight. I get the project how I want it, the weld prep's done, the machine's all been checked out, and then get comfortable. The more comfortable you are when you're welding, the better your welds are going to turn out. I mean, if you're like way back up here like this, or if you're relaxed and you've got good control here and you're doing the little E pattern, your welds are going to come out much better. So I know it sounds simplistic, but you want to be as comfortable as you can when you're welding in that particular area. Okay, now we'll go to the questions and answers, and there wasn't a lot of them. I didn't leave this up that long. The first question is, do I use anti-splatter? Yes, I do, but let's talk about that in another video. This would drag this way out. To give you a fast answer, I use Radnor anti-spray splatter, anti-splatter spray, anyway. So, no, I don't use the gel. I'll explain why, like I said, in another video. MIG wire, what do I use? I use good quality MIG wire. A lot of times I buy my MIG wire from Lincoln. Other times I buy it from Airgas. It's made by Radnor. Is there anything wrong, which is going to be the question, of buying my wire out at Harbor Freight? No, there's not, but all wire is not made the same, okay? There's different chemical compositions in the fabrication of making MIG wire. I did a whole video on it. I will try to find it, and I will leave it here in the link below, or I'll put it on the screen, one or the other. You really need to watch that. There is a huge difference. And there's a wire in particular that Lincoln makes. It's super arc. That's meant for really dirty material. It's not cheap. I have tried it in the past. It works just like, it says. So it all depends. Home hobby kind of stuff, yeah, you can get away with using wherever you can get the best deal. I mean, if that's Harbor Freight, then get it at Harbor Freight. If not, the big box stores, they carry, Lincoln, and, that's a really good wire. They have a very, I've read some articles, they have a very, very high quality control standard for making their MIG wire. So, brand loyalty, call it what you want. I do believe in Lincoln wire, for sure. Radnor also has a very high quality control standard. So, those are my thoughts on this. I hope this helped you. A couple people asked me, what I thought of all these different problems. I think if you go through the checklist of what I said, your problems will be pretty much eliminated. But then you have to check those things frequently, especially the tip. Okay, folks, I didn't mean for it to be a long video. If I missed something, drop it in the comment below. If you have any better experience with some of this stuff, or a better wire or better tips, let me know. Yes, they are available on Amazon. I don't want to buy MIG tips really off of Amazon. I know that maybe they're a few dollars more and you can get some of these really cheap Chinese imported stuff, and that's probably what I'm buying anyway, but I do have the convenience of, if there's anything quirky or wrong, Harbor Freight has an outstanding return policy. I've never had a problem walking back into Harbor Freight. I don't care what anybody says, saying, hey, I don't like these, or it didn't work, and I don't have to give them a long explanation. Most of the time I don't have to have a receipt. They got me on record, and boom, I'm switched out and I'm gone. And I don't want to go through the return shipping and all of that. So for the next to nothing price difference, this is a good way to go. I will leave you a link below on the MIG welding tips that I do buy off of Amazon. and some of them I think are Hobart, the others are Lincoln. I do use those. One of the packs that I showed you actually is Lincoln. I've got like 4 packs. I have I've got 025, I've got 030, and then I have that 1 pack of 035. But unless you're doing structural welding or something real thick, I think that 035 has been sitting here for a long, long time. I bought it kind of, well, out of ignorance, I suppose. I just bought them one day, didn't really think about it, and I just thought, oh, well, it's for thicker wire, no big deal. And I got home, and then I realized for everything that I do, I can get away with 025 and 030. I'm not doing anything structural, like I said. I have used it once or twice on some really thick plate on a trailer flip that I did, but other than that, and I could have easily gotten away with 030. So, okay, I hope you folks have a great weekend. I will see you on the next video. Give me a thumbs up, hit that notification bell, and let me know what you think in the comment below, especially your thoughts on the Harbor Freight tips if you're using them like I am. Harbor Freight does review videos about themselves and everything else. I see nothing wrong with them. All right, folks, have a good day. Bye-bye.